So I saw a very good scientific breakdown of who God is from a scientific perspective. It's actually something truly amazing. So I'm going to give my take on it. I'm going to expand on it a little bit, and I'm going to try and explain it in a good way for you, the audience, the listener, so that you can understand God in a different way, in a better way, in a more glorious way. So it was on Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson's podcast, and it was Andrew Huberman. And I really love Andrew Huberman. The great thing is this, like, he's a scientist. His whole life is based on science. He teaches classes at a university, but he still has deep faith in God, and he still prays because he's learned and he's understood something that a lot of people don't understand about God, that religion and science don't have to collide. So what he explained is basically essentially the fact that we humans, our brains are limited. We have a lot of problems. It's very hard for us to be a good people because there's a lot of evils that are within us. And the explanation as to why those evils are in us is something that a lot of atheists and a lot of people that don't believe in God use as fuel to the fire to say that God doesn't exist. When in reality, those very same faults and flaws are the reason why God's created us. He's created us so that there's this thing that you have to rely on Him for extra strength to better yourself. And Huberman went on a much longer thing in the podcast. You can watch that if you want. But what I'm kind of here to try and analyze is how much that makes sense. Like, it really is such a beautiful thing. Many people, you can look at so many scientific things and you could say, "Oh yeah, there's no way God exists. Oh, all these animals died, and how can that happen, right?" Whatever the argument is, I don't really like care too much because, well, I know a lot of it is all just crap. But I think this is the beauty of it, that it's like you can say, "Oh, well then if God made humans perfect and he made us in his image, how come we have so many flaws? How come our bodies have so many flaws? How come our minds are so filled with evil thoughts and evil feelings and desires, and we're so focused and clinging to pleasurous things?" The whole reason why our minds are weak, the whole reason why we're flawed, is so that we can rely on Him for extra strength. That we can't do it on our own. We can't push through these feelings on our own. We can't resist temptations on our own. We need God to step in and help and grant us extra strength in order to help us be better. And this idea that, the higher power is something you rely on, and it's a real powerful thing that you see people whose lives are a mess and whose lives are just filled in sin and in pleasure and in terror. And then they find God and they realize, oh, what they're doing is not actually that good, and they realize that they're not really finding any meaning and any purpose in their life. So then they turn to God, and then they actually find new life, new levels of competence, new levels of resistance and mental strength. Because instead of having to put all of the pressure on your own shoulders, God is so loving and gracious that He takes the pressure off of our shoulders. He Himself steps in, and, well, in the form of Jesus Christ, He steps down and takes away all of our sins. And despite our evils, despite our flaws, He loves us regardless, and He helps us through the tough times, regardless of where we're at in our lives. It is up to us to choose to be with Him, to choose to rely on Him, to choose to invite Him into our lives for this power, which is a real innate power, to be given to us and to be shared with each and every one of us. So the way Huberman talks about it is essentially to say that we are not enough on our own, and the strength that comes from prayer, the strength that comes from just recognizing and humbling yourself that you're not enough and that you need God's help, God will grant it graciously because He loves us so much. This is why, I talk about certain things like, oh, why do athletes have a tendency to be more religious and be more spiritually kind of aware, let's say? Because it's such a big goal that you can't really do it on your own. You have to have a higher purpose, and the higher power in the form of God, in the form of Jesus Christ, is a way that so many people have kind of solved their flaws, solved their issues, and improved each and every day to reach their goals, to being a professional athlete, It's the big goal that is something so hard to achieve. On your own, you can't do it. And once you realize that, God will step in and he will be so loving and so kind to be present in our lives and to have an even bigger impact in our lives. He's present all the time. It's just the question of, do you want to let him in? Do you want to invite him into your house? Right? There's a metaphor that says, if you're living in a house, the devil will just break into your house through your window and try and get you to do all these terrible things. And God will stand at the front door just knocking patiently, because God respects us. He's given us a free will, and he's respected our decision to either be with him or to not be with him. But when you're not with him, that allows the devil to just come in. The devil has no respect. He's going to barge in. He's going to get us to sin. He's going to get us to do many evils. He's going to get us to think of many evil things. He's going to get us to fall and fail and reveal all the flaws that we have. But if you choose and you're so kind and kind of conscious to open the door to God, he will, and you invite him in, he will walk in and he will make things truly glorious. He will cast the devil out, and he will give you even more strength to achieving whatever goals you need to achieve. He will give you more strength in becoming a better person each and every day. And honestly, from a scientific perspective, it's so great to see a big scientist podcaster is really that is really on his faith journey, and he's in the peak of his faith journey, and he's continuing to grow in the faith, and he reads the Bible and he prays all the time. And it's such a beautiful thing that he has a voice to the people that maybe have this resentment towards God, or this feeling that God doesn't exist, because he studied things. He's seen that, yes, there are many flaws in the human brain, but perhaps that's why so many miracles in each individual one of our lives happens every day. It happens because we give it to God, and God makes it glorious. We give it to the higher power, and he makes it glorious. And this idea that, and then they were talking about like the 7 deadly sins, and it's like, why do humans have the tendency to move towards these things rather than to be good? You answer the question to say that because by ourselves we're nothing. By ourselves we will be tending towards sin, be tending towards evil. Once you give it to God, he will pull us away from it and help us do better every day. So from a scientist's point of view, you can look at it really 2 different ways. You can look at the one side of it that says, oh, we have flaws. We're not perfect. Humans are not perfect. Fundamentally, what is inside of our brains is not perfect. There's a lot of crap in there just going on, thinking. You're thinking about a lot of garbage, a lot of sin, and a lot of evil. The reason why we're not perfect is so that we can rely on God to make us perfect, to make us better. But we are always perfect in the eyes of Jesus. Not, it's just what you're doing on a day-to-day basis will on average improve, because you now have this innate sense of purpose, this higher power you're putting your feelings of negativity onto. And God, Jesus Christ, will accept our feelings of negativity and grant us with his grace and his glory every day that you do choose to rely on him. And you can look at it the second way, which is to say that clearly there has to be a God, because there are so many things in science that you don't understand yet. So many things that are continuously being discovered. So many cures to diseases and brain waves and brain functions and just even in your own body that you don't even know. There are so many things that are being discovered every day in the world of science that you think, okay, if there's so much out there that we don't know still, there absolutely has to be a God out there that we don't know of because we can't see it. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, because there's so many things in scientific pursuits that you can't see but are there because of hypothesis testing and all kinds of different methods of tests to try and get to some certain agreement of what actually is there, like in our brains and even in our own bodies with cures to diseases, all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of look at it from either way and say absolutely there is a God out there, and he is in the form of Jesus Christ, because once you realize there's a God, you then explore, who is the God? Who is this God? And then you find that the truth in the Bible and the scriptures of the Bible are the most true and the most real than any other book, any other religious text. So I think that's kind of like the barrier and the bridge between science and then believing in God, believing in Jesus Christ as God. But the point of this is I'm just, trying to stress something that is super, super important. That science and God, religion, don't have to be opposites. They don't. Really, there are many things in science that actually prove and explain why God exists and why he is there. Sure, there are a lot of things that you can look at and you need further explanation because there are certain things that cannot be explained. And if you take it out of context, you can for sure probably justify with scientific things why God doesn't exist. But you just have to look at the faith of a person like Andrew Huberman. And if you know his background, lots of education, being in there, being in the system, right? Hypothesis testing, science, all this kind, science, right? He's a scientist. He's testing things. He's seeing if things, he's trying to make predictions about how the human body, the human brain works. And he's trying to find different things and different chemical responses by testing it on people, on animals, and then he's sharing his findings online on his podcast. That's pretty much the scope of his life. And you're finding that a person like him, you wouldn't really think a person like him has great faith in God, but he does. And the fact that he does, and the fact that he realizes this one truth that science and religion don't have to be opposites, they can truly intertwine and explain each other. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. So my message to you, if you're a person that, doesn't really have faith, right? You're not really sure, or you're sure you think that there's no God. If you're that type of a person, I ask that you just go and explore the wonders of the many things that we cannot explain. And then come back to me and say, okay, well, if we can't explain all these amazing things, truly there has to be other things that are not explainable as well. So that's my message to you. And if you're a person who's already of great faith, hopefully this is a message to strengthen your faith even further, to say that, yeah, the faith is real, the faith is true. The power of God to change people, to get people to move away from their evil tendencies and bring them towards the good, bring them towards being better people, is a real thing. And the biggest argument as to why the world is kind of such a bad place filled with all this war is that if everyone believed in God and everyone believed in the truth of Jesus and actually followed his works and followed his teaching, the world would not be a bad place. It'd be a good place filled with so much love and so much grace. But there's so many people that let their own greedy desires take them over, that don't have any faith at all, that don't believe in God at all. And it's all those people and the people that are in power in this world that are causing the vast majority of these terrible things to be happening. So don't blame God for the world and all the wars and all the issues in the world. Blame the people that don't believe in God and don't follow Jesus' teaching for the reason why the world is such a bad place in many countries and in many different aspects. So continue to strengthen your faith every day. And, when I watched that episode, the Chris Williamson, Andrew Huberman, it was a really, really good episode. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I understand. Like sometimes the science-y, type of podcast can be a little bit boring. I get it. Like, it's a 3-hour conversation, but I feel like there was a lot of interesting things in there, and that was the best part for me when he was really expressing his faith, especially to a guy like Chris Williamson who isn't really faithful at all, and he doesn't really believe at all. He's not sure, really. I'd probably say he identifies as agnostic. He's not sure. It was a beautiful thing that a guy like that has a platform to spread the word of God and to show that God is real and to try and prove that he is using science, not contradicting it with science. So it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolutely amazing thing. So, just continue to strengthen your faith every day because God is real, he is true, and you can see it. If you really do explore these things, you can really see just how big and elaborate and complicated, but also a beautiful and amazing God's plan is for each and every one of us. So, here is kind of the conclusion to this whole thing. Continue to believe. Continue to strengthen your faith. If you're not faithful, find reasons to be faithful. I mean, I don't know what to say because I'm going to talk about this in a future episode. I actually have things planned where I'm going to make an episode where I give my own original thoughts, original ideas to kind of prove that I'm not just like, a talking head that has no real substance to what I say. I'm going to be giving some original ideas, original concepts that I personally have come up with myself that I haven't seen anywhere else. That's going to be a future episode. So I'm working on those. But one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is the idea that different people need different ways to believe in God, different explanations of God. People see God in different ways. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get too elaborate on it. But this whole scientific perspective is just yet another way that to prove that God exists to a certain sector of people and to people who already believe, to strengthen our faith that even science can prove God's existence, which is truly a beautiful thing. So continue to grow your faith every day. Expect a very good episode in the future where I do talk about these things and I give my own like original ideas of stuff. It doesn't have to be related to God and religion and Jesus Christ. There will be one that is, but there are a couple that are more like psychological, like asking the question of why do we do these things. And I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll be good because I think it will also prove that, I have substance. I'm not just this guy that's just talking and repeating people's opinions type of thing. So in the future, in the next few episodes, you're going to see that very good episode. So, stay tuned. Stay tuned for it. But always continue to grow your faith. That's the whole point of me kind of going on this little rant in this episode, talking about the beauty of how God and science are linked rather than separate. And people like Andrew Huberman, and I'm sure he's not the only one. There are so many great scientists out there that do believe in God for the same reasons. Because there's so many beautiful things in science that explain why God exists rather than the traditional narrative that science contradicts religion, which it absolutely does not. So just remember that fact and continue to grow your faith every day. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for making this far. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please subscribe and like the video. Let me know what you thought. If you enjoyed, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and thank you very much for watching this episode. I'll see you tomorrow for the next video.